Let's get started. So polynomials are just expressions. And they contain variables or indeterminates. So let's say right here we have indeterminates. Let's get our pen going. Let's use red. So indeterminates are just variables. That's all they are, variables, just a fancy name for variables. And variables are unknown until we make them known, right? So for example, we can have 3x, and that x, as you know, and you know this already, that's the variable. Or what's the other name? Right here, indeterminate, right? Because it's indeterminate yet. And this 3 over here is the coefficient, right? So the 3 is the number next to the variable, as you know, is the coefficient. There's the coefficient, just having fun. All right, so polynomials, let's write polynomials over here. And so polynomials, poly means many, and we'll break down the word in a minute. So they have terms, polynomials. Like I said, they are expressions. They have these terms. For example, if you have one term, then you could have like x. That could be one term, and y could be one term. You can have a 5 as one term. You can have a 5x. That's one term. Everything I'm writing so far, 5x squared y, that's all one term. So terms, very important here. Terms are separated by a plus or a minus. So unless you see, put a star here, unless you see a plus or a minus, then it's only one term. So let's clear this out. Let's do this again. Clear it out. So again, one term is called a monomial. And mono means one. So if I just had, again, 5x, that's a monomial because it's one term. Do you see a plus or minus? So the terms in polynomials are separated. They're separated by a plus or a minus only. No division, no multiplication. So when you see a plus or a minus, then there's another term. So if I had, for example, 5x squared y, that's still one term. But then all of a sudden you see a minus sign, minus x. Now we have two terms. We have two terms. And by the way, two terms are called binomials. So one term is a monomial, and two terms are binomials. But they're all under the umbrella of polynomial. So what do you think? Now, what is this? Let's say I gave you 5x squared plus 3x plus 5. How many terms do you see there? Three terms, right? They're separated by a plus or a minus. So there's three terms here. Three terms are, guess, trinomials. So we have monomial, one term, two terms, binomial, three terms, trinomial. So let's change the color. Use blue. What if I gave you this? What if I gave you x plus 3x plus 4? How many terms are there? X plus 3x plus 4. Well, be careful, because you can also combine like terms. So x plus 3x is 4x plus 4. So this would actually be just a binomial. And we'll talk about combining like terms in a minute. So let's clear this out. So there's different polynomials depending on their terms. And also you can have linear polynomials. So if you remember from 8th grade, linear are the type of equations you were using that will create somewhat of a straight line on the graph. Those are linear. And linear have a degree of 1. What am I talking about? Degree of 1. Well, this is a linear polynomial because if you look at the variable or the indeterminate, that's another name, right? The exponent is a 1. When you don't see an exponent, there's a 1 there. So when you see a 1 as the highest exponent, they say the degree is 1. And this is linear because you don't see a square. So when you see a quadratic, quadratics means that the degree is 2. So 4x squared plus x minus 5, This is quadratic because the degree right there, you see the highest degree of 2. So again, let's clarify degree. When you look at a polynomial, you look at the variables, and you want to find which one has the highest exponent. That will be the degree. By the way, if you look at this quadratic here, you can always know quadratics because they have a 2x power. That's the highest power will be a 2, and their degree is 2. Quadratics, by the way, to give you a brief review, they could look like this. They have parabolas, right? They could look like that, or they could look like this, and so on. But we'll go over quadratics in other videos. All right, let's clear the page here. And let's change it. Let's use green. Why not? So what if I gave you this? What if I gave you 6x cubed plus 4x plus 3x plus 8? What is the highest degree? What is the highest degree? Well, look for the variables, right? We only have x's. And what variable has the highest power? Well, 3. So the highest degree is 3. This is a third degree polynomial. And how many terms does it have? How many terms does it have? It has 4. 4 terms. Or does it? Does it have 4 or 3? What do you think? Well, right here, we can combine them. So this will be 6x cubed plus 7x plus 8. You can combine those like terms. I'm going to go over that in a minute. All right, let's change the color. Use red. What if I gave you, put a line here. What if I gave you 5x squared plus 3x plus 2 minus x plus 9x squared? What can you combine? So remember, when you combine terms, remember terms are separated by a plus or minus, you can only combine those that have the same exact variables. Same exact variables. So try this out. Same variables and same powers. So let's see, what would you do? If you want to pause the tape, let's try. So if we took 5x squared, we can combine it with another x squared right there. So we can combine 5x squared and 9x squared, and we'll get 14x squared. Right? 9 plus 5 is 14, right? What else can we do? Well, we can do 3x with a minus x. Be careful with these signs. 3x minus x is going to be a positive 2x. 3 minus 1. Remember, there's a 1 there. There's always a 1 next to a variable. And then we just have a 2. Just have a 2. So we combine those like terms. And then this would be a what degree? It'll be a second degree trinomial. Okay. So let's clear this out. We'll use purple. Why not? And let me write polynomial again. Polynomial. So poly, again, I said before, it means many. Nomial means terms, so many terms. But we do throw in monomial. So again, if I put an x, that's a monomial. Right? And I put xy squared, that is a monomial. Right? What if I gave you 5x to the third, y to the second, z? Well, that's still a monomial. Because what is the rule? We said it has to be separated by a plus or a minus. So I don't see a plus or a minus here, right? But once you see a plus or a minus, then you know you have another term. So if I gave you x plus 2, that is a binomial. And of course, they're all polynomials. And if I gave you this, what if I gave you 5x squared plus 2y minus 7? How many terms do we have? We have 3 terms, and the highest degree is 2. And you know when you have the highest degree of 2, you know that it's going to be quadratic. Quadratic. Now, let's break this down. So this 5 here, that's the coefficient, right? The number next to the variable is the coefficient. Let's write that down, coefficient. And of course, the x here is the variable, or the other name is right here, indeterminate, right there. The 7 is a constant, because it's constantly 7. It's 7. And then we have a variable over here with the y. So this again is a trinomial with a degree of 2. And I just noticed that I spelled quadratic. It's quadratic. There we go. What is this? Who knows what I was trying to spell over there, but quickly erase it. No one notices, right? Quadratics. And again, remember, linear is straight. That's linear. Let's clear it up. Let's do it again. Clear this up. So again, linear is basically could be straight, right? Doesn't have to go up, though. It could go down, right? It could be anywhere, right? And quadratic, which we'll go over, has these parabolas that they make. All right. So let's make a line here. Maybe we'll go to green. So I'll give you this 6x to the fourth plus 3x to the third plus 2x plus 1. What is the degree of this? Put a little question mark there. And what type of, how many terms? How many terms? So the degree is 4 because the highest exponent is a 4. The highest power is a 4. There are 4 terms. You can't combine any of them. Can't combine any of this. And by the way, this is a polynomial, but sometimes you might hear teachers say quadnomial. And that was not really the case in the past, but you're hearing more of it as a quadnomial. Okay, now there's also what we call non-polynomials. And look for these on any tests. When you see a variable in a denominator, it is not a polynomial. It's called a non-polynomial. So if you see 1x plus 2, right here, that x is in the denominator. So they do not have polynomials, that is. They do not have variables in the denominator. So they, meaning polynomials, do not have variables in the denominator. But here you see it, so it's a non-polynomial. Also, polynomials do not have negative exponents or negative powers. So if you saw x to the negative second power, that is a non-polynomial. And by the way, when you do see a negative exponent, they do become fractions like that, and that'll be explained in other videos very shortly. So again, make sure you know what non-polynomials are. I'll leave that up for a minute. Okay, so let's add polynomials. Now we'll add and subtract polynomials. So what if you had 4x cubed minus 2x squared plus 1, and you want to add it, and I'll put the parentheses when you add like that. You want to add it to 7x squared plus 12x. Well, it's just, all this is when you're adding is combining like terms. So find a term similar to the 3, the cube. Well, there is none, so you're just going to put the 4x cubed down because there is no other cube. And if you want, you can cross out what you used. Now, let's see about the square. Well, we have a negative 2x squared and a 7x squared. We can combine them. Don't forget that negative sign, and this will be 5x squared. Making a little Christmas color there. And then we have a 1 and a 12x. We can't combine that. Can't combine that at all. But we can bring the 12x down, and we can bring the 1 down. And that's what we have. So again, if we want to make this red, all red, there we go. 4x cubed plus 5x squared plus 12x plus 1 is when we add that. And by the way, what we're doing here is make sure when you do write polynomials, and again, these are 4 terms right here. You're seeing 4 terms. Let's write that over, 4 terms. And the degree is, you got it, degree is 3. These are 4 terms. So normally when you write polynomials, you want to put them in, you want to put the powers in descending order. That's the normal way of doing it, descending order. So if you see them in ascending order, you'll rearrange them into descending order. So as you can see, they're descending. It goes from 3, 2, 1, none, right? So for example, if I gave you 3x to the second plus 5x plus 4x cubed, and let's say we put 8 over there on that side. This is not in any order. So you want to put them in descending order. How would you do that? So write it over here. Pause the tape. Write what you think they should be in. What order should they be in? What do you think? Well, we should put them in the highest descending order. So 4x cubed goes first. 3x squared goes second. 5x is next, plus 8, and that'll be in descending order. So keep that in mind. Have it in descending order. All right, let's do one with subtraction now. Clear that up. All right, subtraction. Be careful with subtraction. So you remember in school when you did keep, change, change, keep, change, right? You remember that? I'm sure we all remember that. So if you had, for example, if you had negative 5 minus 2, we know it's negative 5 plus negative 2, right? So keep that in mind when you do subtraction in polynomials. So if you had, let's say you have negative 3x squared plus 7x plus 8, and we'll put this in parentheses just to make it look good, minus, let's say, x to the fourth plus 7x cubed minus 12x minus 1. So what can we do here? So you want to change everything. You want to keep this, change that, and then change everything in here. Change the signs. So let's use green to change the signs. So now that'll be negative x to the fourth, negative 7x cubed plus 12x plus 1. And we just combine like terms. So 3x squared, is there any other x squared? No. So we'll just leave that there. Let's look at the highest power first. So the highest power is that. So I'm going to put negative x to the fourth minus 7x cubed, because those are the highest powers. Then there's minus 3x squared. Now, 7x plus 12x, that gives us 19x. And 8 minus 1 gives us plus 7. So that'll be that. So keep in mind when we're doing subtraction that you keep, change, change. Also, be careful with something like this. Let me clear this out. Let's say we had the same numbers, but I said in the question it was, let's see, it said subtract negative 3x squared plus 7x plus 8. And then it said from, be careful with this, from x to the fourth plus 7x cubed minus 12x minus 1. Now, it looks like the same problem, but it's not. When you see you want to subtract this from that, that means this comes first. This is the key word, from. So you're doing this, x to the fourth plus 7x third minus 12x minus 1 minus that. Write that down. Okay. So again, when you see a word problem that says subtract this from that, that means after the from is the number that comes first. So we're doing the keep, we're changing everything else, and we'll change the color. Now that'll be a positive 3x squared minus 7x and minus 8. So what do you think you got? What do you got? Right? Not proper English. I'll pause the tape for you. Be something if I could pause the tape, right? So if you want to pause the tape, get the answer. Let's do it right away. So again, there is no other x to the fourth to combine, so we're just going to write x to the fourth. There is no 7x cubed. There's no other cubed up there, so I'll just put 7x cubed. Now, there is no x squared besides that one, so I'm going to put 3x squared. So far, so good. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. But now we're going to do minus 12x minus 7x, and you get negative 19x. And then minus 9 plus minus 1 minus 8 is minus 9. So that would be the answer. All right, that's the first course. Second course is coming.